Today, I'm packing my bags for workshops in Yellowstone and Moab. I'll talk about what I'm putting in the bag, how I'm configuring it, how I'm reconfiguring it for wildlife to landscape. We'll talk a little bit about first impressions with this 180 to 600 millimeter lens that I'll be taking and testing in Yellowstone, as well as introduce a killer new accessory pouch for you NYA-EVO fans that either mounts on the pack's waist belt or slings on your side. All right guys, Hudson here. Welcome to this week's video. I am heading out tomorrow, the day after this video launches, for a couple of weeks on the road with my good buddy Rick LePage. We'll be meeting up with David Archer in Moab for a landscape-focused workshop. And also, right before that, we'll be in Yellowstone doing a combination of those wild geothermal landscapes as well as all the wildlife in that park. It's my favorite time of year to go to the park. Actually, both of them. So I'm stoked, I can't wait. I'm loading up El Jefe, and I thought I would take you along on a little journey of what's making the cut, what's not making the cut, and how I simply transition from a large ICU to a medium ICU for those two different purposes. So we'll talk about what's going in and how it goes in my bag with quite a bit of detail. You know, and I'll knock a few things off the list first. I mean, we're not going to get into all the nitty gritty of everything I'm taking. Water bottles for the workshop participants, bear spray for Yellowstone, you know, walkie-talkies, all that kind of stuff, spare filters and tripods for people to be able to use. First off, of course, I'm taking the 800 PF Nikon S lens, and I will share that around with people in the workshop and shoot with it myself. But probably less than normal since I'm testing the 180 to 600 millimeter lens. It's the perfect timing that I got this lens that I can use it during the 30-day return window. And I'm probably gonna send it back, but you know, my initial impressions are better than I expected for the lens. I'll save that for when I'm going through what gear is making the cut. So the 800, yes, it's going, obviously. My little Leica Q3, which I have been loving. There'll be a video for the Leica files out there or the other people who've joined ranks with me in appreciating this amazing, if a bit expensive, but to me worth it, 28 millimeter lens with killer camera body on it. So I've got that in my little mirrorless mover 10 think tank bag, which I have discovered is my favorite bag for this camera and the little accessories that go with it. Alongside some 82 millimeter Case Revolution filters and an adapter from its filter mount to 82 millimeters. I got this bag of extra stuff we'll talk about in a second when we switch the ICU out from the NYA-EVO bag. That's a really easy process. I'm going to walk you through it. It's something that I often do when I get on an airplane and my bag as a whole won't quite fit in the overhead. All of the NYA-EVO bags that we sell in my store are carry-on compliant. The C in their name, the 60C, the 36C, those fit in the overhead, but sometimes you get on a little commuter flight and it just won't fit in those smaller overhead compartments, you know, where there's only 3 seats as you're going down the aisle. So what I do is I pull the ICU out, stick it under the seat in front of me, and then put the compressed bag up in the overhead. So we'll go through, I'm gonna walk through what's in this bag. But before I do that really quick, this is a project that I've been working on with NYA-EVO for a while, and they actually did a bit of co-branding with me. They put my logo on the inside tag alongside their logo. It's been a thing that I have been playing around with. People on workshops with me since the Cuba workshop this spring have noted me carrying this a lot on this really beautiful trimmed strap. It has nice metal kind of carabiner style clips to put the pouch on there. And it's just the right size to hold some tools, some energy bars, some filters, spare batteries, memory cards. It's got a little mesh zipper pocket that opens up that's really easy to drop things into, as well as a kind of a hidden, stretchy black fabric pocket on the back side of it, so you can really keep things separate in 3 separate compartments in it. And I use that little back stretchy pocket to kind of hide a little extra cash when I'm walking around in cities around the world and I don't want to necessarily flash that I have more money. It's like a good place to hide your spare cash or just things that are really important. It just doesn't stand out that it exists. So I've been carrying this around on my person, but it also mounts really, really nicely to the waist belt. Whoops, All right, so every now and then we drop a thing or two, but you know, that's just universal. Me, maybe particularly. That's the lens foot for the 180 to 600. Anyhow, it mounts on here really, really easily using their Mole attachment system. It's kind of a mil-spec little system, slides through straps. You can put one on each side of this NYA-EVO 60C backpack. You can put one on the left side of your 36C. The right side already has kind of a stretchy mesh pocket on the belt. So a really nice little accessory. They're running like $35. We have them in the store. I'll put a link right up here. You can also just click on this video's description or to see the full description. You click show more or the video's title and dive down in. I've got links to everything I talk about in this video. Well, most of the things that I talk about in this video. So you can find links to everything that I use and recommend always over at ATS Links. You go to hudsonhenry.com/ATS Links. You can also just, again, click right here. But we have them in the store. It's $35 for the pouch, which will slip right onto your NYA-EVO'S waist pack or any other pack with a Mole attachment system built in. And if you want it with the strap, it's actually, I think it's $30. It's like $29.99 for the pouch, and it's $45 if you want the strap. It's an additional 15 bucks. It's a really nice strap, just like all in NYA-EVO'S stuff. It's got that really beautiful milled aluminum trim on it. It's nicer than your average strap. So check those out. I love it. I haven't been without it since they came out. I'm happy my name's on it. All right, what's in my bag? So I'm packing first for Yellowstone. And no matter which park I'm in, you know, I'm gonna be doing landscape, I'm gonna be doing wildlife, and I'll be doing a mix of the two in Yellowstone. No matter what's in my pack, you know, I have my rocket blower and I have some toilet paper and I have, you know, the NYA-EVO'S little ducktail that slips on the front to stuff clothes and things, accessories on the outside should I need to. I got spare batteries and memory cards in my organizer pockets. I might put a hydration bladder in here if I go hiking and route it through the hydration bladder port right here to my shoulder strap. So that's in that big horseshoe pocket, which I have not expanded. I could, if I wanted to, open that up and make it significantly bigger by popping these two expansion ports, and then obviously that whole thing goes out significantly further where you can drop a bunch of clothes and gear in there if you needed to, which might be handy in this particular case because I really have it loaded in the large ICU. In this little quick access pocket, I have my favorite camera strap, the Lumilabs Loop QD strap. I have my favorite headlamp, the little Princeton Tech Vizz lamp. All the stuff, again, linked over on my site. And the reason I like the Princeton Tech Vizz, the newest version is 550 lumens, really, really bright, but its default setting's red. You click it once, it goes red. You click it again, it turns off. So you don't have to go through a white cycle and blow everybody's eyes out while you're doing a night shoot. And we'll be doing a bit of night shooting in Yellowstone. So it's just default is red. Plus, if you hold the button down for say 5 or 6 seconds, it'll blink a few times. We're almost there. There it goes. It's blinking on its top. And now it's locked out. You have to hold it down for 5 or 6 seconds again to reactivate it. And that way, you can't toast your batteries while it's in the pocket and accidentally gets pressed. I know that's happened with other lights of mine. Those two features in and of themselves make that the finest photography headlamp for me. Again, I'll put a link to that in this video's full description, just on its own a link, but you can always find it over at ATS Links. All right, you know, and when this configuration, I don't have a whole bunch of space in my main compartment. I can still get my hat and gloves and lightweight hat and pack cover and a rugged, you know, waterproof camera cover. There's a bit of room up here. I could stuff a little puffy coat or something in there if I wanted to. But having the large ICU in here makes there be less room, unless, you know, I want to go ahead and take this to its full 60-liter capacity by bringing in the roll top dry bag, which I like to save in case I get something wet that I don't want to put in with my other gear, which I want to keep dry. So the bigger piece de la resistance is what's going to be in this back compartment. So for Yellowstone, I have the large ICU in here. And you know what I've got is, this is the ICU I use to sometimes carry the 800 in this bag. If I remove this little divider, which right now is holding my 1.4 teleconverter in there, it's a tight squeeze, there it is, 1.4 teleconverter right above that new 180 to 600 millimeter lens. If I take that divider out, the 800 millimeter fits in this bag. So right now I have a little stretchy band around the hood of this 180 to 600, which I'll talk about initial impressions at the very end of this video, sitting right up the center there. And on the side, gotta squish it in, there it is. On the side of that down low, I have my Z9. And you know, I know some people always want to mount their camera with a lens attached in the bag. I think that there's two problems with that. One, if your bag gets roughly handled or jostled or falls out when you open the back of the van, you could damage the lens to camera connection. That mount could get dinged if it moves around in the bag too much. Two, it just takes a lot more space. I use this Hoodman iCup, which folds right flat around the camera, and I just slip it right in there and put a piece of Velcro over so that there's no way it falls out, all right? Down here on the other side, I have my 24 to 120, the lens I use more often than anything else. For comparison purposes, I have my beloved 100 to 400, and I think that's the lens I'm going to be doing the most comparing with the 180 to 600 is the 100 to 400, both bare and with the 1.4 teleconverter. Up in the top corner, under another stretchy keeper, I have the 14 to 24, just tucked straight in like that to a pocket to the side of that hood on the 180 to 600. That's such a special lens to me. I always keep a little protector over it. And then in between the Z9 body and the 14 to 24, I have my 112 millimeter case filter set. Inside this, I have, this is the Revolution set. I have circular polarizer, UV, 3, 6, 10 stop neutral density filters, and my neutral night filter, all right there, alongside my HB97 hood, which clicks right on to the 14 to 24. For those of you with other lens kits, that hood also snaps right to all the 2.8 trilogy lenses, the 24 to 70 2.8, the 70 to 200 2.8. It also fits the 51.2 and the 14 to 30. So it becomes a really, really handy filter attachment hood mechanism. And for the 24 to 120 and the 100 to 400, I have a case magnetic cap and a 77 to 112 millimeter magnetic filter adapter, which just threads right onto the front of either of those lenses and lets all those 112 filters work stacked all that I want, no fear of vignetting. There's also a 95 to 112 magnetic filter adapter, which I should throw in here in case I want to polarize with the 180 to 600 millimeter. All right, so, you know, let's say we're done with Yellowstone. I'm going into Moab and I'm going to be hiking up to Delicate Arch, and I really don't want to carry the 180 to 600, but I might need to carry some extra gear for other workshop participants, something like that. I'm going to take you through how I pull this removable camera insert out and stick in my smaller one for a different kit. And we'll talk about that swap. All right, so I'm going to walk you through how quick and easily you can switch removable camera inserts, RCIs, in these NYA-EVO bags. I'm going to pull the large one out, stick this medium one in, swap a little gear around, and show you how I set that up for a pure landscape photography trip like Moab. I got my shoulder straps kind of folded around. I cleared the table a little bit. You know, I think these are even easier than the f-stop bags that I used for years. They simply have a really strong Velcro tab at 4 points, and you can pull those. They stick to the sides of the removable camera inserts wherever it fits a different size camera insert. And you can just fold them over themselves so that they aren't flailing around sticking to things while you're trying to get the RCI out. So you've got to fish each of those 4 little tabs out, close off its Velcro. Sometimes you have to kind of scoot something to the side a bit to get a hold of it. It's not too bad. I don't usually have to take my gear out to do that. With the Z9 fills that compartment pretty well. I'm probably going to pull it just temporarily out. Stick that guy back. And then, I might as well leave it out because I'm going to put it in the other RCI anyway. I'm going to lay the thing flat, grab a hold of the base of the RCI, just kind of move the bag a little bit, and out it comes. Boom. All right. And I've got its little zip-off cover sitting right behind it in the bag. This divider that keeps stuff in the top compartment, like I showed you, my pack cover and my gloves and my hat and stuff, you can throw a whole bunch of things in there, that falls down to fill whatever void the removable camera insert's not filling. And then I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to take the things that I want out of here, like the 100 to 400. If I was getting on a plane, I would just simply zip this guy back on. You find its little zipper start, and you find the zipper itself probably helps for me to throw my reading glasses on for detail work. Whoop, slip it in, easy as pie. That guy would go under the seat in front of me. But in this case, I'm going to pull out my filters and my HB97 hood, my 14 to 24, and my 24 to 120. We'll leave that 180 to 600 and talk about it at the end of this video a little bit. Meanwhile, I have some things that I'm going to keep in the van in this medium RCI that I don't necessarily want all the time, but they're handy because they're protected in here, like my 105 2.8 macro lens, my move, shoot, move star tracker, a little Acrotech Ultimate head to go with that move, shoot, move star tracker, some battery chargers, a spare Z6 II in case I want to do time lapse or some video work, and my 20mm 1.8 for more star work. I can just go ahead, zip that up. That stuff's nice and safe. Oh, some spare lens cleaning cloths that have gone through the washer. Done and done. And I can tuck that stuff in the van in my large ICU, safe and sound, protected. All right, so now I want to drop this medium one in. I like to do it with them full, actually. So I'm going to take my 100 to 400mm lens. I have a nice piece of Velcro here waiting to slip over the hood of it to kind of secure it as it drops in. So the 100 to 400 fits right there in this spot. I'm going to take my Z9 again and drop it in just like I had it in the other bag, but it goes in the middle compartment for me. I put my 14 to 24mm lens in right above the Z9 and Velcro it over like that. Put my 24 to 120 in right there. My case 112 filters and HB97 hood. And then I'll go ahead and zip the protective cover off that guy, drop it in here in the bag behind the RCI, and we'll just do exactly the same thing. Slip it in, whoop, and then these Velcro pieces, boom, 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 ready to go. And now I have a lot more space in the top half of the bag. It's kept separate by that zip out liner to store extra stuff when I'm going out in the landscape. But I've got my whole kit from 14mm to 200 or to 400mm. And if I put that 1.4 teleconverter in a little soft carry pouch in my top compartment where I have so much more room, boom, I can easily throw in the move, shoot, move, the Acrotech Ultimate head, the 20mm lens, the 1.4 teleconverter. I'm set for stars, for wildlife, even with the 100 to 400 and the 1.4 teleconverter. This is my general kit. This is how my bag is on my pack sort of all the time. This is the default setting for me. And again, you know, I think it's really important for people to think about keeping that camera body in here separate, okay? You just really don't need to have it connected to a lens in your pack because it just takes a lot of extra space that way. And again, I think your mount is more vulnerable to damage when it's that way. So you go ahead and zip this guy up, and I'll lay it down to get a little better torque on these zippers. It's ready to throw on your back, and it's got that NYA-EVO pouch on the waist belt, so it's right there with filters and snacks and things. Cool, cool stuff. All right, so that's how and what I'm packing for these two workshops. let's talk really quickly about this 180 to 400 millimeter Nikon lens. I've been shooting with it a fair bit, both bare and with the 1.4 teleconverter attached to it. And I will say, I think it's lighter than I expected. Not quite as big feeling as I expected, you know, having tested the 200 to 500 out. It's still a big lens. Now, you know, granted, I've been shooting a lot in the interim with the 800 millimeter, so I'm used to a bigger lens. I think that, you know, I haven't had the time to go through and really look through image quality. I don't think it focuses quite as quick as my 100 to 400. It's kind of to be expected. That lens costs $1,000 more. I do not love its collared tripod foot, which you saw me drop earlier. You know, I've never been a giant fan of this system, which they had on the 300 PF as well. You drop it on there, it clamps, and it sort of friction fits. And you tighten it. The more you tighten it, the more it locks down, and you loosen it, and it kind of friction slides around the lens. I'm not a huge fan of that. You know, this is a all-in-one budget wildlife and action sports type of lens for a person that's a little bit more on a budget. You know, it has a tremendous amount of reach, particularly with the 1.4 teleconverter. I'm gonna have to look at image quality, and in the wake of Yellowstone, I will definitely have that. I've shot some ospreys flying, some kite surfing, a little bit at the wildlife refuge just to kind of play around with it, and it handles and focuses better than I expected. I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at image quality, so I can't give you a review, but it will be forthcoming. You know, my feeling at this point, owning the 100 to 400 and the 1.4 teleconverter, is that this doesn't come close to replacing that for me. I love that setup, and partly just because you saw me pack it down into such a small space in my bag, and I think its image quality is just astounding. You know, it's an S lens. This is a non-S lens. I think this is going to be a lens that a ton of people love. People who don't have it in their budget to have the 100 to 400 and the 1.4 teleconverter. This thing is going to bring wildlife within reach, and my initial impressions are it does a pretty good job of it. I'll have more to say after Yellowstone on that topic. All right. When we get back from Yellowstone and Moab, I believe it's October 10th. It's a Tuesday. The Tuesday closest to October 10th, if I'm off, we'll be doing an office hours session. It's going to be a big free photography get together. We'll take your questions. We'll show some highlights and tell some stories from Yellowstone and Moab. So that will be coming your way. Make sure you sign up for that. You can click right up here. You can click on the link in the video's full description. You can run to hudsonhenry.com/office hours and sign up for Zoom or YouTube Live. Leave your question when you sign up. We'll take all the questions that we have time for. Sometimes we run out of time before we get through all of the questions, but we kind of keep tabs on that. And on that note, you know, the questions that you guys put into the comments section here on YouTube, the emails that you send me, the questions you ask during office hours really drive the direction of the content that I produce for this channel. And so I just want to thank everyone for being a part of the community, for contributing with your questions and your curiosity, and for sharing and liking and subscribing to the channel. It makes a huge difference. So thanks, everybody. I can't wait to get to Yellowstone. I'm hitting the road with Rick the day after this video goes live, so I might be a little slower with responses while I'm in limited data range out there. Moab after that, then home. That's kind of the wrap up for the workshops this year, but I couldn't be more excited. All right, everybody, I thank everyone again for watching. I hope you're staying safe, you're staying creative, and we'll see you next week.